Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Beyond Impact. My name is Colin Egglesfield, and on this show, I love to bring to you the experts in the space of sharing insight and wisdom and knowledge in the areas of entrepreneurship, communication, and with the Beyond Impact brand that I've created here. What I love to do is just empower everyone out there who has a message or a brand or a company and you're wanting to expand it, to scale it, to get it out there. As an actor, I've learned some incredible insight and some techniques to be able to share my message and to be able to deliver that message with confidence and clarity. As an introvert growing up, I was always afraid of getting up in front of the class to answer questions. And stage fright is a real thing. It affects about 75% of the population out there. The term for it is called glossophobia. And so if you are looking to overcome your fear of public speaking, to be able to share your message with more ease and more clarity and confidence, again, that's why I've put this together, and to bring on here and have a forum for people who are in the space of creating amazing things and who are in the space of sharing their message. And today's guests, I have the amazing couple here who I met through Jeff Hazlett's C-Suite Network. And this is an incredible mastermind. And if you haven't been a part of a mastermind, I would highly encourage you to take a look at anything, or, just there's a ton of masterminds out there. And it's really important to surround yourself with the people that are in the space of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish or achieve. Because most of the time, if we're trying to do something that we know in our heart and our soul is what we are meant to be doing, but if we're not surrounding ourselves with people who are in that same space or who are in that like-minded conversation, it's really hard to be able to consistently show up every day to be able to put that message out there unless you're getting filled back up with the inspiration and the similar conversations and empowerment that you need in order to be able to show up every day to be at your best. And so it's very hard to be able to just show up and constantly be there for other people unless you are filling yourself up with whatever it is that you need to stay empowered and inspired. And that's why I love to have these conversations, because they inspire me and I always learn something new from my guests. So that being said, my guests tonight are this amazing couple. I like to call them the supermodel couple because they're so gorgeous and beautiful. On top of being incredibly cool and sweet, they are incredibly brilliant in terms of being able to marry, no pun intended, the areas of entrepreneurship and relationships. So for those of us who are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, or who are high achievers and looking to achieve great things in life, it can be very difficult to balance that with having, your relationships with your spouse's wife, husband, your children. And so tonight on Beyond Impact, we are going to be talking about how to balance your drive and your desire to grow your business and to scale it and to be at to operate at the highest level, but also be able to be there for the people that you care about and who you love the most in life. It's so easy to get wrapped up in our work and to be workaholics and to just devote our whole being to growing and scaling whatever it is that we care most about. And it can be very easy to let the relationships in our lives start to slide a little bit when we're just so focused, because there's only so many hours in the day. So tonight, I'm really excited to have this conversation with Miss Tawnya and Mr. Scott Landis about this very topic. So Tawnya and Scott Landis are the co-founders of Awakened Life and Business Freedom Forum, where they help purpose-driven business owners thrive in both business and at home. As a husband and wife team, they bring decades of experience in coaching, psychology, business strategy, and business development to help entrepreneurs align business growth with family values and lasting fulfillment. They've guided countless married business owners to scale their companies without sacrificing their health, marriage, or freedom. Their approach goes beyond growing a business. It's about building a life that you don't need a vacation from. They have a book, and we're going to be talking about that book tonight. The book is called Balancing Act: How to Achieve Peace of Mind, Financial Freedom, and Lasting Fulfillment in Business and Life. And this is a practical, heartfelt guide for high-performing entrepreneurs who feel caught in a constant tug of war. I can't wait to have this conversation between their growing business and the people they love, carrying the weight of success, but rarely experiencing the peace that they truly crave. What are you talking about? It's almost as if like they crawled up into my brain here and wrote this book specifically for everything that I'm dealing with, because this is exactly what I am dealing with. Through private coaching, retreats, and their business freedom community, they're on a mission to help couples and founders build a legacy of intimacy, impact, and true freedom. So I'd love to bring to the stage now, ladies and gents, please put your hands together for Miss Tawnya and Mr. Scott Landis. Hi, guys.
Hey,
Hi.
hey, Colin. I'm
Great to
having
have
so
you
much
here.
fun already.
Yeah.
That was a great first segment.
Well, I appreciate you guys being here. I've got a bunch of questions lined up, but just wanted to just have you just have an open floor here to share a little bit about what it is that you guys do and what you'd like to share with my audience.
Go ahead, you go first.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
So we've been married for just 26 years. So we have 3 children, 21, well, almost 21, 17 and 14. So all of our children were born into entrepreneurship, and they've grown up in entrepreneurship. They've been on the roller coaster with us. We became entrepreneurs in 2001. Well, Scott did first, and then I joined him. I was in corporate. We were both in corporate, and then decided it was time to do our own thing. We have built 5 businesses, successfully sold 2 of them. One was a complete failure, but we learned the most from that one. And then we have 2 still going. So, and we're also going international this year. So that's exciting.
Right.
As well. We like to keep it, things booming here. So
Yeah, exactly. And so in the corporate space, what is your background in corporate America?
So, well, first of all, we met in high school sweethearts, went straight into college from there. I got a psychology degree. She got a business degree. And before I was done with my psychology degree, the company I was at was taken over by GE Capital, which I thought was a great company to spend the rest of my life with. So I was a corporate guy, company man. I was like, by the time I finished my degree, I just wanted to be with GE for like, 30, 40, 50 years and just retire with $1 gajillion in retirement assets. And then somewhere along the line, they shut down the place where I was at and gave us a severance package. That was 2001, started entrepreneurship there. But I was just in middle management there for GE Capital. And then what about you?
I was at Intel. I worked as a strategic planner. I thought same thing. I'm going to retire from here, but I wasn't, I got in there and I'm like, I realized like I definitely wasn't being fulfilled. A great job, great people, great benefits. On paper, everything looked amazing, but I felt like it wasn't in line with my purpose. But that was back when nobody was talking about purpose. It's like you graduate, you go to college, you get the job. It's a lot different than like our children right now than when they're graduating, and you like everything aligns with, your purpose. But I just didn't feel fulfilled. And he went off and started his thing. And I'm like, I think I'm going to join you. And when I left, I actually was offered a promotion not to leave. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like, no, I really feel like this is where I'm called. And so, yeah, that's how we ended up in entrepreneurship.
And since then, you as you've been growing your business, has it been specifically geared towards helping other entrepreneurs navigate growing their businesses? And
well, we started out in really it was just sort of like following the breadcrumbs. So while I was still at GE, I got a call from my insurance agent, and he said, I heard you guys are like, getting a severance package soon. You should check out insurance. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, what, 20, I don't know, younger 20s. I don't remember what age I was, but it's my insurance agent. I kind of thought he was, a good advisor. He had helped us, insure our first home and all that stuff. So I'm like, I'll check it out. And I went and, long story short, we got into insurance and financial services, because right at that time, the company we were with was starting their financial services side of the business. And I was super interested in that. If I can see a through line, I mean, helping people, I was just thinking about this last week. In high school, I realized I had my first coaching experience, like coaching somebody. A friend of mine was, flunking out, and I'm like, dude, I could help you out with that. And just kind of, but he was like ready to drop out of school by the end of the year. He's like, oh, I think I'll just finish this thing out. And then when I got into the entrepreneurial side and the financial services, I was like, okay, I could help people achieve their financial goals. And but because it was an insurance company, I had to also do the insurance stuff, which was boring to me. And then a year later, when she came on board, she was like all about the insurance. So we had like the property and casualty insurance and the financial services, and that was our first business. Our Landis insurance agency that we ran all the way through till about 2008, 2009 when we sold it.
Yeah, and I primarily focused on business owners. I loved working with business owners. So majority of my clients owned businesses, and I insured restaurants, different companies, warehouses. And so it was really fun to work with them and make sure that they were protected. And then we did real estate investing after that. We had a coffee company. We've had, I've been in fitness and nutrition, and I still am for the past 13 and a half years, because I really feel like as, people, it's an energy management. You cannot do anything without managing your energy and your health and all of those things. So we've had that. And Scott started doing business coaching back in like 2011, 2012 for a company running, when people used to meet in person. Remember that guy? He ran, masterminds in person with business owners. So we've really kind of done a lot of different aspects of it, which has really helped us see all the different pieces. And we've both been coaching entrepreneurs since 2011, and people in their relationships, because a lot of times that's the biggest strain in a relationship is work, business, things like that. And we've felt that as well.
Yeah, somewhere in that story we got into marriage coaching, just with premarital, like wanting a little bit of skills, communication, active listening, best practices before getting married. So we were like in our young 30s at that time, and kind of as a ministry, we went through a class to get trained as marriage coaches. Did that with the church, and then later we got into actually coaching professionally. So I don't know, it's just interesting how the stepping stones along the way, they kind of all lined up. But yeah, officially, making full time since about 2011 on the coaching side and coaching businesses.
So I do want to get more into specifically the coaching that you guys currently do, but Tawnya, you touched on purpose, and I think that's a big topic of what I like to talk about, and basically help people connect to, especially when we're younger. We hear about purpose. We don't really necessarily maybe know what that is or how to balance that with our careers, especially when we're, in college and we're expected to pick a career that we're supposed to be doing for the rest of our life. What would you say is each of yours purpose, and how did you discover it?
Well, I have to say, and I'll just tell the audience, like, your purpose can evolve over time depending on the season of life that you're in. So we just went on, like, we like to become proficient in whatever we're doing. So we got into the coaching space. We got into like personal development, relationships, because we wanted to learn for ourselves as well. And so for me, I started realizing that my purpose was to help people break free from the mundane and really live out life. Life is so short. Do not waste it. I have to just say that, because the small things, don't matter, that we get upset about, you know, the little things. It's the bigger things. And you're going to run into obstacles. Those are opportunities. Those are clues to what really is important in life. And I would say that I felt my purpose, but I didn't really connect with it until we went through one of the darkest times in our lives, which was in '08. We had been in real estate. We had a huge portfolio. Life was amazing. Like, we had a white picket fence out in front of our house. But we had really were all about the material. We were really transactional with each other. Things started going south with real estate, and we were heavily invested. And at the same time, I had our daughter, our second child, and she was very sick. And we basically, nothing mattered at that point. Like, the health, like, of my child was what mattered to me. And that's really when I realized, like, life is just so fragile and short. And I have this gift that God has given me, and I need to be living it out, and realize, you know, like, that just really made me realize how important it was. And my purpose has been since then is just helping people break free from whatever's holding them back, and really, like I said, break free from that mundane, and like live your life, like be out in the world. And we all have different purposes, and it's really exciting when you're actually living it.
Are there like specific exercises or things that you do to help your clients connect with their purpose?
Yeah, I think he's got a whole, like, it's in the book too, guys. But yeah, we do. It's not like overnight. I think everyone is like, oh, I want to know. But I mean, mine took a while. It took a while for me to realize it and accept it. And like he said, follow the breadcrumbs. But it's really about figuring out what lights you up, but also, you know, what aligns with your priorities. Because there's a lot of things that we could be doing, but does it align with the priorities we have in whatever season of life we're in? Like, we have busy, you know, life is busy, and we can keep busy with busy work. But does it align with the purpose? Does it align with the priorities? And I always tell my clients, I'll tell you this, like, if they've been following me on social media, I always say, write out your priorities. If you're feeling overwhelmed or you're not sure what to do, you should have 3, no more than 5. If you got 5 or more, then you're really spread too thin. So what are your priorities? And whatever you're looking at doing, if it violates one of those priorities, then it's probably not your purpose. So yeah.
What I'd add to that is, I think that finding your purpose, it's really a process of discovery. It's not a process of creation. It's a process of discovery. So I believe that it's wired into you, kind of like your DNA, right? Your retinal scan, your fingerprint, those are unique, and your DNA is unique. And I also think that there's a unique purpose for each person on this planet. Like, why are we here is the big question we're all trying to answer, right?
Sure.
And I think that there's actually a real solid design for that. I'll give you this metaphor that I use all the time. Like, you can look at something. You might even have one on your wall there, Colin, somewhere. I don't see it on your screen, but if you had a piece of art that was also designed to be a clock, you know, a very ornate clock on the wall that was so beautiful and ornate, it was actually art, right? The design tells you what it actually is. Like, you could say, gosh, is that art or is that a clock? But you know it's a clock, a beautiful clock, but it's a clock because it has hands and it has indicators that tell you what time. So there's design elements wired into each individual person. And that's just kind of, you know, my core belief. And I've, you know, experimented with that, working with business owners and individuals and helping them find their purpose. I just go with, like, I'm just discovering, I'm looking, I'm observing, I'm looking at what are the design features of this person. And out of that, you can just be like, oh, okay, I think you're a clock, right? You look like a clock. You have the design features of a clock. You're supposed to tell time, right? That's your purpose, is to tell time. And so that's kind of the MO that I used to find it. And then the rest of our, kind of philosophy, what we call the alignment operating system, is kind of a strategic planning system that's aligned to that purpose.
And after working together for so long, and as you started to align your purposes together and having all of these businesses, what advice would you give to people who are incredibly busy, who have a lot going on? You've got all of these businesses, and you've got, how many children do you have?
3.
3.
Mhm.
How do you make time for all of it? And how do you, what advice do you give to your clients when it comes to obviously trying to maintain that level of high performance, but also setting specific time for like date nights and making sure that you're there to be there for your kids? Like, how do you guys balance it all?
Oh yeah, date night. Yeah. So I'll give a quick answer, and then I can give you some more there. But I another metaphor. I kind of think about it as like, if you imagine like a radar screen, like if you're in a submarine and all you got to look at is a radar screen, and there's these blips, right, that are showing up, and if that radar screen represents the things that have your attention, there's a verse in the Bible that says he'll give you the desires of your heart. And I think that whatever catches your attention is kind of close to those desires of your heart, right? So I've got a wife who's on my radar screen. I've got 3 kids that are on my radar screen. We've got an international business expansion. We've got a startup that we're partnering with in the Philippines. We've got clients. We've got all of these things on our radar screen. We want to do date night. We want to do invest time with our kids. And the way that I look at it is, and it's funny, it's kind of ironic. The title of the book's called Balancing Act. But, and I know a lot of people agree with this, that there's no really such thing as balancing at all. We make that point pretty early on in the book that, we're not actually promoting to have work-life balance. We gave up on that years ago, and we're really about integration. So this radar screen metaphor helps me integrate all these things in my life. And the interesting, where it really helps me is if it looks like, again, if on my radar screen, it looks like I'm like moving forward, and in front of me is a thing that pops up on my radar screen that has my attention. But I also have something that I'm sort of like, it's behind me. It looks like it's behind me. It looks like I'm moving away from it. What I used to do, and this is just the key, and then I'll stop. But what I used to do is I used to say, oh, okay, I'm all in on that one thing. And I would forget about everything else. And to me, that's the mistake that I used to make, and maybe some other people make that. But when I look at it, is everything on my radar screen is there for a reason. There's another place in the Bible, it says, he'll use all of these things, I'm paraphrasing, for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. So if you get that purpose thing right, all of these things are going to be used for your good. So I don't want to ignore any of them. I don't want any of them to fall off the radar. I mean, some things naturally fall off, but I'm not pushing anything. I'm kind of open-handed saying, okay, I know I'm moving towards that, but I don't want to forget about that. And I've got these other things on the periphery. How do these all fit together is my driving question that kind of helps me integrate it all. How do these all fit together? Because I just believe, and it's an unreasonable, optimistic faith that all these things must fit together, because why else would they be a desire in my heart?
Sure. And do you guys divide and conquer? Do you guys say, okay, these are my strengths, so I'm going to focus on this? Or do you guys take turns?
Yeah, we could not be more different. We're like polar opposite.
Yeah, and it's very helpful that we've done a lot of work on that part.
Yeah, when we had our first business, we had our assistant, and we'd be like arguing in the office over like desk space. Like, you're on my side. No, you're on my side. Like,
we actually had to sit at a desk this size when we first started our entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, because you're like bootstrapping your business, and you just gotta work with what we were way too close, and our assistants out there like, what is happening? Like, she probably just thought we were crazy, but we were young. We were in our 20s, and we had, we both thought we were right. And then we realized that like, we're just very different. I would say, as far as like what Scott was talking about, like for me, I was the polar opposite. I wasn't focused on one thing. I'm like, what's shiny over here? What's shiny over here? Multitasking. I'm like, I'm the queen of multitasking. I can do it all. but really I would like that just leads to burnout. So I think it's just really important to know your like I said, you know your priorities, you focus on like probably don't start as many businesses as we have now. Like you have to realize we started with one, then we got it's kind of like having kids. Like we had one kid and we're like, this isn't bad, we're amazing. And then we had another kid and we quickly were humbled, and then we had three and we're like, well, that's just going to be chaos.
Let's just get through it.
Embrace the chaos and realize that with entrepreneurship, you could be riding high one day and the next day like it could be like feel like the end of the world, and things can change in an instant, but you have to be committed. You can't have one leg, you're on a fence and you got one leg over here and one leg over here, and like, because if it's something that you're like that you've got to commit like to that business, and you cannot be like wishy-washy, and you're gonna have ups and downs, and just realize that's part of the journey. It's hard. It is hard. It's not for everyone. And I tell people going into business, I'm like, it is not for everyone. I have like really good people I know, and they're like, I could never do what you do. And I'm like, that's great. I could never do what you do. That's what makes us all different. And I think as far as like with the kids and the marriage, you have to be really clear on your boundaries. And you have to be present where you're at. You cannot be sitting at your kid's baseball game or their soccer game on your phone. And like, I was just at a school meeting right before this. I was at a school meeting to chaperone our daughter's 8th grade signature trip. It's my 3rd kid. And I'm at the meeting and I'm listening to the meeting. At that time, I realized that one of my other kids didn't pick up my younger kid, and I'm like,
the one that you're at the meeting for.
Yes. And I'm like, okay. So, it's kind of, I was like, okay. And instead of getting upset or freaking out, just take a deep breath. And I'm like, all right, we got this. We can do this. I mean, luckily, she's a little bit older, but I mean, this is the reality of life. And if you get upset, like about those things, like instead you have to play the offense. Like I heard this from somebody a long time ago. You got to play the offense. You can't like play in the defense the whole time. And so I was like, all right, like it's okay. We got this. And we're going to fix this.
Going on the offense, what does that look like? Is that like sitting down on Sunday night and going throughout your week and planning out specifically your day from like the moment you wake up to the minute you go to bed? Is that what you mean by being on the offensive?
Yeah, I mentioned the alignment operating system earlier, and at the very fundamental part of it is that purpose. At the very minutia part of it is that daily habits and routines, and then there's everything in between. But that sort of bookends the whole system. And if you have it needs to be a system, right? First of all, it's easier to manage systems than it is to manage people, and that includes trying to manage yourself. So if you have a system of some kind of that keeps you on track with a daily routine, whether it's a morning routine, evening routine, all of the above, please, and then a weekly review to say, okay, how did it go last week? Assess and measure and adjust, and then what is my plan going into the next week? If you do that daily and weekly, and then you do a quarterly, review process, I mean, it's not rocket science and it's not that sexy, but that fundamental will, is the differentiator. I was just telling a coaching client this before we got on that, 10 years from now, the difference between where he's at now and where, and where he will be, like where he visions himself as a high performer, is literally just what I just said there. All of this other stuff, the fancy stuff, it's cool, but I think that is what makes all the difference. Kind of like if you eat a salad for lunch every day versus eat a juicy burger every day for lunch, is, kind of know where that's going to go.
Sure. And, most of our, or a lot of, I would say my growth in life has come from the most challenging experiences that I've had to face. And one of the questions we have here in the chat here is from Miss Erin Roscoe, and she's asking, what failures did you go through that taught you more in your other businesses?
Well, with 2008, with having a daughter in a health crisis where insurance decided they didn't want to pay, even though she was on our insurance plan. And they fought us on every surgery, every medication, everything. Losing the business at that point and having to sell our other business just to be able to live. So we had to sell a successful business to be able to live off of, because we had the real estate failing, and ultimately ended up in bankruptcy court a few years later, very pregnant with our third child. And it's like, and all the stuff that we went on in between that, like what I learned is what is most important. It's not the material stuff. It's not having the best car, the best house. I've already had amazing things. And it's not that I don't like nice things, but they're not fulfilling. They are not. And learning truly that how strong we are and we can go through anything, because I will say that was, for me, that was the darkest time. And coming out of that and just realizing like that you need to build your business on a solid foundation, which we thought we had done, but is that it happens. And if you've talked to any successful business owner, like we were with somebody who runs multiple businesses, very famous, very wealthy. And he's like, yeah, the first time I filed bankruptcy. And I was like, what? And then he's like, oh yeah, and then this, and he's like, oh, and I'm like sitting there and I'm like, so this is normal? He's like, oh yeah. Or somebody's like, yeah, when I got sued, which we've been sued. And I was like, he's like, yeah, that's how you know you're in business. And I was like, yeah, and it's true. It is true. And those are the things, is just realizing that that's part of, like part of the journey, and doesn't mean that you're in the wrong spot or you did something wrong. It just
Did you have like anxiety and stress over the bankruptcy? And then after going through it, realized like, oh, you know what? Actually, this was probably the smartest thing we could have done.
Probably a few years after. I mean, it rocked us, because we were, we talked about, we were always taught like your credit score is like, I was measuring my credit score based on my worth as a person, which is really silly, because that thing goes up and down and all around. And but it was the smartest thing at the time. Like we needed to do that, and we were advised to do that by professionals. I mean, we did everything we could, and they're like, yeah. And I think that going through that, and I talk about this in the book, like that's how my business, that is like my fourth child, I'll call it, was born. Because businesses are born out of inspiration or desperation, and sometimes both. And that was where that business came from, was a desire of like, I never want to have this happen again, but I also, know this is what I'm supposed to do. And it helped me make different business decisions. And not to say that everything is perfect, because like I said, business, you go up and down, and then sometimes you're here, and it's a roller coaster.
Sure. And from that experience, what would you say are some of the takeaways from that you share with your clients to help make sure that they're creating a business that's based on integrity, and that they're not overextending themselves? Because like what I find building my business, like you were talking about, Tawnya, I tend to sometimes see an opportunity and I'm like, oh, well, this opportunity could be a great opportunity to grow my business, or to go here and to do this. And then what ends up happening is I end up doing so many things at like 70% efficiency. Whereas if I should, I realize I've got to just focus on like the 2 or 3 things instead of the 8 or 9 things, because then things get dropped and I'm not doing them as well as I could. Do you find that a lot with the clients that you work with, and help them narrow down and focus on the few things that are the most important?
Here's one of the takeaways that I had through all of it was, when we started entrepreneurship in 2001, I had to learn how to set goals and achieve goals because I never really thought about that before. But I wanted to set big goals, and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Entrepreneurship. I didn't grow up in an entrepreneur family, so I needed some skills, and I started learning all about goals. We became really good at setting goals and achieving goals.
We were amazing at goal setting.
Yeah. Out of our biggest failure and hardest, darkest time, we learned that setting goals and achieving goals, it doesn't necessarily lead to fulfillment. We thought, man, we're on top of the world. We just can't, all we do is win no matter what. And, we just set goals and achieve them. What we realized, the big takeaway from the whole thing, and this is really core to the book and what we teach with our clients, is you can have success and failure no matter what operating system you're working under. You can have ups and downs. When we're talking to people on their marriage, we're like, hey, there's no such thing as a marriage that's always good. We're gonna we're gonna extend the blissful times and shorten the hard times. That's our goal. We just want to, on this roller coaster of life, we want to keep the high times as long and fun as possible, and the low times as short and not disastrous. But we're not going for perfection here. There's going to be good and bad. There's going to be ups and downs. What you can have on one operating system or the other was we didn't have peace and we didn't have fulfillment in our old system. And now when you line your daily habits and routines and your goals, because that was the differentiator. We are goal setters no matter what. But now our goals are aligned to that purpose and that calling and that wiring that's deep within our DNA and our soul. When you make decisions and you take risks, we're huge risk takers. We take crazy risks. Both families think we're crazy, right? But our risks are aligned to the discovery that we've really, been intentional about, like who she is and who I am and who we are as a family, what our family mandate is, why we're here on the planet as a family. And we're working to pass that on to our kids too. Whether we have, things just going smooth and easy, which is rare, or it's challenging and hard and it's a grind. If we know that that's aligned to who we are and what we're called to do and who we're called to serve and our purpose, then we have peace and we have fulfillment no matter what. And that's what we couldn't find before when we were chasing goals that weren't necessarily aligned to that.
Awesome. And for the clients that you do work with, what's some of the advice you share with them in terms of what to prepare for when you're starting to grow a business, and especially for couples who are working so closely together? Do you have a formula where it's like, okay, make sure that you spend, only a certain amount of time together, and then you give each other breathing space, or you take time to listen to each other? Like what are some of what's some of the advice that you give to your married clients to help them prepare for some of those tough times that obviously are going to come up when you're building a business?
Yeah, I'm thinking 4 pillars.
Yeah, the 4 pillars. Also, you're on the same team. Sometimes you think you're like on different teams and the stress levels are high. And so it can cause tension, and that is, not going to help anything, but it's also hard to get out of that. It can be a cycle. So we are really about, like, you're on the same team. You might need separate we know we need separate offices. We don't work in the same office. Like, I'm in his office right now.
We need separate sinks and we need separate offices.
Separate sinks.
That's just us. We know that.
But you might be somebody
is that one of the 4 pillars?
And not, we've shared an office, when we first started, and we've been through, we've actually traveled the world with our children, working all over Europe and different places. And so we've had to work in some really small spaces. So adaptability is another thing. But yeah, the 4 pillars, you want to go through those?
Yeah, so kind of what guides our coaching in our life is the 4 pillars of fulfillment. Again, we're working towards not necessarily achieving like extraordinary goals. We're working towards fulfillment and peace. Like that's the core of what we want to do. And so our 4 pillars of fulfillment that kind of guardrail our decisions in our life is starts with vitality. Tawnya mentioned this before. You got to have the energy, you got to have the health, the stamina, the ability to show up for your most important people. And, you know, that's vitality. So if you don't have that, it's kind of hard to do any of the things. But then the next one on top of that is relationships. And we talk about relationship intelligence, and we talk about, you know, same team. So much of relationships is in, you know, just needs. People are wired to meet needs. And if we can communicate based on, okay, we call it needs focused communication, but if I can understand what her needs are and I can help her understand what my needs are, and we can articulate that, you know, that solves a lot of the challenging conversations, and, you know, goes from there. And the third pillar is freedom. And you're going to like the fourth one, Colin, but the third one is freedom. And it's just like, you know, to have the freedom to live the life, to serve the calling, to serve the people that you want to. You got to look at, you know, there's financial freedom, there's location freedom, there's time freedom. We are, you know, big on those things, but really it's a lot of the internal work. Like, what are the internal hangups and, you know, things that are holding you back? What are those, you know, skeletons in the closet? What are those shadows that you know, haven't integrated? You gotta become that whole person to really have the freedom to do the fourth pillar, which is impact. And when I first met you, and I was like, beyond impact, that's awesome.
Yeah,
we don't have to impact. He's beyond impact. But yeah, our fourth pillar is impact. And that to me is just like finding the thing, you know, the deepest level of fulfillment is finding something that, you know, that lights you up. What is something that's near and dear to your heart and soul that you want to make a contribution to the world? That's impact.
And who would you say is your ideal client that you work with? For anyone out there who may be listening and who's interested in reaching out to you to contact you about getting help with whatever it is that they're dealing with, who would you say is your ideal client?
Well, let me say this from a heart perspective, because there's the business answer, but we wrote the book for a couple right now who is an entrepreneur running business, might be a successful business, but they're struggling to manage the things. Their marriage might be, you know, challenged or struggling. They might feel like, you know, they have a lot of mom guilt, dad guilt, you know, not showing up as much as they want to for their kids. And they're just trying to make the business, you know, stay alive so that they can make all these things work. That's why we wrote the book. That's the ecosystem we've created in everything we do. And so if, you know, somebody's listening who that resonates for, man, we want to help that person. But yeah, the business answer is a little different, but that's what my heart's saying right now.
Yeah, I think, yeah, just if you're struggling in business, you know, you got your business, you got your relationship, you might have kids, you might not, you're just like, how am I going to do this? And that is the person that typically finds us, and they're like, help us. But yeah, we just have a heart to help. That's what we want to see businesses thrive. We honestly believe that business owners and entrepreneurs are the ones that can change things for the world. We can make the biggest impact because we don't have all that red tape that everyone else has. And we want to see things thrive, like in the US and beyond. And so that we can make a difference. And that's really, you know, we want to help people break free from whatever's holding them back or whatever's not working, and help them create things that will work and will help them.
And so you do that through, obviously you've got your book, and you also do masterminds, right?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what these masterminds consist of, and what are some success stories having come from it?
Yeah. So I've been working in and facilitating mastermind groups since 2012. And, you know, you've also run masterminds. We've done them in retreats. And when you were talking about at the top of the show, but, you know, like that's how we met, right? But, you know, I think the short answer is, you know, surrounding yourself with people that that are in a similar place that, you know, may be a little bit further along than you, and may be able to, sometimes, you know, it's not really about knowing something, right? We all have access to all the information we could possibly.
Way too much knowledge.
Right.
Yeah.
So
It's
when it comes to,
Yeah.
So when it comes to what our demographic and the people that we work with are needing, it's about execution. And the things that we do, I mean, it's a hard thing, right? The balancing act is not easy. But if you surround yourself with other people that kind of get it, and they're like, hey, I've been there, I can relate to that. And you're like, okay, I don't feel so lonely. I don't feel like it's just me. Like that was part of I mean, this is why we're passionate about mastermind groups, because when we were going through it, we felt so alone.
Yeah, we didn't feel like there was you have like all these great people out there, but it's like they're either not married, they're on like their third marriage, they are, you know, and that's just, we were like, well, we want to stay married, and, you know, we have these kids together, and I felt called, you know, I tried to stay at home for a couple years, and I wasn't good at it. It wasn't like
I tried it for like 1 minute.
He lasted like a couple days. I lasted a couple years, and it's not like, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She was amazing as a stay-at-home mom. Like that was what she's called to do. She did great. You know, I just felt like there was something else, but I love being a mom. I love, like, I wouldn't have 3 kids if I didn't. And so it's just finding like, our masterminds are real. They're authentic. They're, you know, they're very, like, Scott's a master at running these. Like, he's amazing. Anyone that's been in one of his masterminds is like, oh my gosh. And he's amazing at facilitating, amazing at asking the hard questions. We also do, you know, individual coaching. We do couples coaching. Really, our programs are needs-based. It's what, not everyone's, like we talked about, unique purposes. Not everyone's made the same. What do you need? And we tailor it to help those people, because that's what we needed. We would go to these different things. We talk about spending money. You talk about shiny. Like, we were like, okay, maybe this will help. Maybe this will help. And we realized, like, okay, we need to create something, because we're not finding what we need. And we aren't that unique. We are, but we're not that unique. And we took bits and pieces of what we really learned and put together a program to help people. And we've successfully helped. We get people that are like, you saved my parents' marriage, and I just want to thank you for that. Like, our family dynamic has changed. Our business has changed. And that's fulfilling to us, because that's what we wanted to do. And to hear that, not just from the clients, but from their children and thanking us, that's the beautiful thing. Or we've got, Scott does a lot of succession planning for businesses where the next generation is taking over, helping them do that, keeping the legacy going. And then, you know, everyone just be like, you know, being able to see that survive is just incredible.
That's beautiful. Do you find that there's a common theme for relationships, couples that are in business together? Do you find that there's a common theme for why relationships break down or why they're not working? And what is it that you offer to help repair that? Like with the instance you were talking about.
Yeah, I think that, you know, Tawnya mentioned, there's several things I could talk about, but the same team, it's like, I can't emphasize that enough. I mean, when people come to us, it's so adversarial. I'll give you one of my nuggets. It's that, you know, that my clients get when they come. It's you know, stay out of court. And that's another metaphor. I'm big on metaphors. But basically the stay out of court metaphor is just when you are finding yourself in an argument with your spouse, what are you doing? You are stacking up your evidence, you know, like you did this last summer, you know, then this, you said that, I've got this evidence. And then another person goes and says, well, I've got this evidence. And, you know, and when I see and observe couples that are, you know, trying to tell me who's right and who's wrong, all I see is that, I mean, that's what my brain sees. It's like, okay, yeah, who's got the bigger stack of evidence? Okay, yeah, oh yeah, nice stack of evidence there, ma'am. Nice stack of evidence there, sir. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, who freaking cares? Like,
Nobody wins.
It doesn't matter whose stack of evidence is bigger, because and this is my spiel I give them, right? So you're getting the inside information. So, I say, hey, if I took you to a jury of your peers, I bet I could convince them that you're right. But on the other hand, other person, I could also probably convince a jury of your peers that you're right. So if you want to keep having that conversation of who's right, then, play that game. But how about we play a different game? Let's just stay out of court. How about we stay out of court? And anytime we find ourselves going to court, like, why? Just no, it's futile. It doesn't go anywhere. It's fruitless. So stay out of court. And what do we do instead? We get on the same team, and we realize, okay, there is an enemy. And we talk about this in the book too. It's towards the end of the book, but there is an enemy that doesn't want you to stay together. There's an enemy that wants to see your business go down in flames. There's an enemy that wants your family to fall apart. And that's not good for any of us. That's not good for our society. We see this directly connected to society. If businesses stay together and thrive, if family businesses stay together and thrive, and marriages and families stay together and thrive, we have a better society. So there is an enemy, and I won't even define what that is, but it's not the two of you. It's neither one of you. You are on the same team, and there's an enemy, and it's out there. It's outside of who you are. So stand shoulder to shoulder and look out at that enemy and tell them that you are not going to take us down.
That's beautiful.
We are together. We're on the same team, and it's us against that enemy. So if you need an enemy, you have one, but it's not who you guys are. You guys are same team.
Yeah, that's such great advice, guys. I really appreciate it. And one of our viewers here, Elizabeth Krause, says it's 100% important to stay on the same team. It's bad for everyone all the way around, but horrible for kids if you aren't on the same page. So true. Yeah. It's great to hear you guys are making such an impact on so many people. And obviously now it sounds like you guys are going worldwide. What does that look like for you guys?
Oh, this is Tanya's project.
I literally was, I was like working out and so I talk about, like, you have to put your own air mask on in the morning. So that's something that I'm really passionate about. And even as, I started a business, one of my last businesses with a 1, 3, and 7-year-old. And I've been through all the seasons. So I tell people, I'm like, if I can do this, so can you, because my last 2 kids didn't believe in sleep. So, yeah, they did not sleep. But just like, those are the morning times where you get that, like, those clues to your purpose, because it's quiet. And I got this idea, and I just, was like kind of meditating on that. And I took it a little further, and just really like the next few mornings. And I'm like, I think that this is what I'm supposed to, that next season of life. And I will say, like, we talked about the balancing act. That did mean I had to take my foot off the gas on some other projects. And I really believe in what we're doing next. I really am excited. It is focused on the younger generation. And, we've helped a lot of people in our demographic, and we still continue to do that. But this is really for that next and upcoming Gen Z. And I'm super excited about it, and I can't wait. But we're in negotiations right now in Europe, and hopefully by the end of the year we'll be launching, or sooner, launching over there. So
are these like seminars or something with kids, or what?
It's coaching. I can't talk about all the specifics because I did sign some NDAs right now, but it's really about helping the younger generation realize their purpose. We have so many that are so lost because they have so many opportunities at their fingertips, and they've got, when I've watched my own kids walking through this and their friends, there's just so much that they can do. And then there's so many societal requirements of what they think is expected based on what they hear from social media.
Sure.
Which you gotta learn to like be able to handle that.
Yeah.
And so this is really focused on them. It does involve coaching. It does involve quite a bit of, making sure to help them get on the right path, and so that they can have that fulfillment and follow their purpose and not just those shiny things, or do something here and then something here. Because we all have those tendencies, but I'm really excited about it.
Awesome. Speaking of kids, what advice would you give your younger self, knowing what you know now, before you got into all of this?
I would say, well, it depends which young version. I feel like it's a lot of versions. Like we've been married 26 years, but we've had lots of marriages within that. Same person, but lots of marriages in that.
Mhm.
But I would say, like, don't get so tied up in this small day-to-day stuff. Like, really focus on, habits, like getting healthy habits, not getting so sidetracked with things that don't matter. They seem,
Mhm.
when you're younger, things that ultimately don't matter, they seem like a big deal, but they're really not. I will say, like, it's important who you're surrounding yourself. So if you're around a bunch of people that you wouldn't trade places with, maybe it's time to find some new friends. And that can be really hard, but you're only going to rise to the level of the people around you.
Yeah.
And it can be hard to change that, but it is really important.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
yeah.
Well, anyone and everyone who's in your environment, I can't see why they wouldn't elevate and get to where they want to go in terms of talking about goal setting and that sort of thing. And that just leads me to one of my last questions here. In terms of goal setting and helping people identify where it is that they want to go with their business and their personal life, how important is the power of manifestation and visualization? Is that something you incorporate,
Mhm.
into your life and that you share with your clients to help them uh, do some of that inner, deep, mental, meditative work to help them get them to where they want to go?
This is one of her specialties that is. I always refer people to her on this one. So
Okay.
This is like my wheelhouse. I absolutely. I think a lot of us like forget that we, there is a world beyond our little space, and
Mhm.
just to really dive deep into where you want to go. My background is strategic planning, and I literally am always like, okay, so where do you want to end up? And we're going to figure out a path to get you there, but
Mhm.
really, where do you want to be? Because you need to, that's where all the actions that you're taking need to lead. So yeah, manifestation, thinking about like where you want to go. Because like we talked about, like we both had these corporate careers where we thought, oh, we're set, like this can be amazing, but we both were kind of like, what are we doing? And
Mhm.
so realizing like, okay, what is it that I truly want? And just spending some time journaling, writing that out. I know it can feel like some people are all about it, but other people are like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm like, well, what happens if you stay on the path you're on? Where are you going to go? They're like, oh, I don't want to go there. So I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
So really just, visualizing that, reminding yourself in the morning when I sit down, we're talking about the planning, we're talking about all the habits. Do those
Mhm.
align with where you're going, where you want to go? Do they align with the vision for your life?
Mhm.
I think that the vision board gets lost because people think, oh, I don't have time for that, but you got to make time,
Yeah.
and you got to be focused on it. I have mine as my screensaver, and so I see it every time I open my computer.
Awesome. Beautiful. And my last question for you guys, and thank you again for taking the time to share your amazing wisdom and insight with us. What, in terms of that question, impact being the fourth pillar that you guys talked about, what is the impact that you guys are inspired to make in the world?
Mm. Well, there's a couple of projects that are recent. and they are both about reaching communities that we haven't. So she mentioned the youth, basically 14 to 29-year-old category that is on our heart right now. But also, we have a project that is, we're starting a nonprofit. We are working with another nonprofit, which is to bring internet to places that don't have it. And that sounds pretty simple, but what it means to me, the why behind it is connection and about the human connection. And so woven into the next phase of where we're going is, technology right now is interesting, controversial subject, AI or, technology or whatever. We're pro all that. We're pro innovation, but we want to be a part of the guiding force in the world that brings where technology takes the human experience to just back to grounded human experience, right? Like, social media, people say this all the time, we're all more connected, but we are less depth of relationship. We are working through technology, and something as simple as bringing internet to a remote village. Like, how does that help? And how can we bring that and bring opportunity to that village, that rises up that whole village for the purpose of, again, what we're all about, connections with people and families and kids and that next generation and keeping families tight. Like, how can internet, elevate, even the remote parts of the world?
Yeah, and also opportunity for them, because I don't think people, especially, realize that there's still so many places that don't have that, and they are limited to the opportunities within their village, and this will bring them jobs and ways to support themselves and hopefully help with poverty and things like that. So we got a big thing coming, and we're really excited about it.
Awesome. Well, it sounds great. And any way I can be a part of it, I would love to. And anyone out there who's interested in connecting with Scott and Tawnya, they can reach Scott and Tawnya through Instagram, Facebook, your website, the name of, here we go. On Instagram, you can reach out to them at Tawnya_Landis and at Scott Landis Coaching. And then your book is available on its own website. Is that correct?
It's on Amazon, but it's also at a web. We have our own website. It's getbalancingact.com.
There it is.
Yeah, so you can pick it up, read it. It was something we weren't planning on doing, but felt like, you talking about the same stuff over and over, and everyone's like, when are you going to write your book? And so we did. So there's a lot of vulnerable things in there. I will say that we didn't even touch on in the interview. So if you want to, but we also have practical advice in there, steps you can take in relationships, business, all of those things, the whole alignment operating systems in there.
Beautiful. Well, thanks again for your time, guys. And looking forward to somehow creating and supporting you guys with all the great work you guys are up to. And look forward to seeing you guys very soon. Are you going to come to my retreat next week?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to come by.
In our town.
Yeah. You guys are just down the street, right?
I know.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in the one you're having in Ireland, though. So.
Yeah. Well, in terms of retreats and masterminds, we definitely have some things to talk about further. So thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Colin. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. All right, everyone, another great conversation. And just if you guys are interested in reaching out to Scott and Tawnya, there's multiple ways that you guys can reach out. And just, I had lunch with them a few weeks ago, and just being able to sit down with them in person, just to get to know them. You can tell just by having this conversation here, they're so heartfelt and they are so purpose driven. And these are the kinds of people that I am trying to surround myself more with, because life is very challenging. It can be very difficult. And, the only way we can really, truly achieve the things that we really want to in life is by surrounding ourselves with people who are at a deep core level connected to their purpose and help us remind ourselves about our purpose and what we're capable of doing. And man, I don't know how they find the time to do all of this stuff. And I'm just really more curious to find out how it is that they're fulfilling on everything that they're talking about. But I did like what they were talking about in terms of just focusing on your 3 to 5 priorities in life. And, you know, as someone like myself who is all about trying to take advantage of all the different opportunities in life, this is where I could use some of their advice in terms of just focusing it on the 3 to 5 and focusing on the desires of the heart. And I like what Scott talked about in terms of looking at your life in terms of a radar screen and seeing on that radar screen what are the most important things that are inspiring to you and that matter the most. And then also I liked what he talked about in terms of not just focusing on creating balance in life, but integrating these things into your life so that you're being, and what I like Tawnya talked about was in terms of being present where you are at. I'm guilty of this where I've got my phone with me. And so I may be present at a dinner or at a lunch or someplace, but I'm not truly present because I feel like I've got to focus on all these 100 million other things. But I think it's really important for us to remind ourselves that it's important to be present where you are at, and then also creating these daily habits and routines and having a weekly review. And then also just understanding that goals don't always equate to fulfillment, and that it's important that we have these goals, but we are also understanding and knowing that it's the process in fulfilling these goals that truly is the fulfillment and who you are getting to be in the experience of it all, and not just focusing so much on actually getting to where you want to go. And then what I just absolutely loved what they talked about in terms of relationships, making sure you are on the same team, and the analogy of stay out of court. I love that. I think that's such great advice in terms of you can be right and stack up all this evidence against each other, but at the end of the day, truly you are on the same team. And it's important to reshift your focus onto the things that you really are trying to accomplish and what matter most. And do you want to be right, or do you want to create more fulfillment and more results in your life? And I like the 4 pillars that they talked about in terms of having vitality. It's so important that you are taking care of yourself, that you are doing the things that make sure that you're eating healthy and you're exercising and you're giving yourself enough of the things that you need in order to be able to show up and be able to do them at 100%. The importance of relationships and intelligence, the importance of emotional intelligence in relationships. And then this is a big word for me, freedom, having freedom in your relationship. And one of the things that I find that creates more freedom, and it almost sounds antithetical in terms of the more that you create structure in life, to me, I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to commit to that because I want to have the freedom to be able to do the things that I want to be doing. But actually, what I have found is that by creating structure and having more things planned in your calendar, that it actually allows you to have that space for freedom, so that when you are doing more of the things that you want to be doing, you've got that designated time where you're not worrying about all the other things that are on your calendar because it's all scheduled and you know it's going to be taken care of. And then lastly, of course, the 4th pillar being impact and creating an amazing impact in the world. And each and every one of you, as they were talking about, has something unique about who you are and what it is that you have to offer. And it is so important that you be able to feel that you can express that and share that with the world and have the impact that is going to create purpose for you. And if you are struggling with that, and if you are feeling like you need a little support, because we all do, whether it's reaching out to Scott and Tawnya or myself with my Beyond Impact coaching or with my retreats that I'm doing. As I mentioned, we've got Scottsdale coming up this weekend. It starts this Thursday night and we've got day passes. And so even if you haven't had the opportunity to reserve your bed, we still have actually a couple of beds left if you are wanting to come last minute, but we've got some day passes lined up for hiking. And we're going to be visiting my buddy's spa for health and wellness and red light therapy. We're going to be doing acting class and our essentially living room theater Friday night. We've got sound bowl healing and yoga Saturday. We've got a lineup of incredible guest speakers. And we've got Saturday night, we've got our dance contest. Sunday, we've got a Tai Chi session. And then we're going to be doing horseback riding. And then Sunday night, we are showing the world pre-screening of my next movie, Where the Wind Blows. So we're going to be doing movie night. And this movie is the movie that I shot last year in Montana. And the director, John Chimke, and Ashley Elaine, who's the lead actress, they are going to be coming all the way from Los Angeles and Texas to do a Q&A panel after the movie. So they're going to be hosting the movie with me on Sunday night. So this is going to be an incredible weekend of health and wellness and mindfulness and just reconnecting back to who you really are to be able to do more of the things that you want to in life. So this is an amazing opportunity for you to just come and get rejuvenated in mind, body, and spirit. And then I also have in Ireland on May 22nd through the 26th, my next retreat out there. So I just got back from Ireland. I was there for 10 days last week, and it is absolutely stunning. It's an incredible place to discover so many incredible, beautiful things. And we're going to be doing some hikes out there and visiting some castles and doing all kinds of really cool things. So if you're interested in that, you can go to my website, colinegglesfield.com, and look forward to seeing all of you who are going to be coming to the retreat this weekend. That's it for now, ladies and gents. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys all next time. Take care.